Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Alternative Cycling Network. That's how you know it's live, guys, because there's a bunch of screw-ups. So I'm Russ from Path Less Pedaled, and we've got Mike from LockedIn. I got it right this time. And
that's right. All right.
Spindatt.
He's only done this like 4 times before this all started. So yeah. There we go.
Right. We've got lots of fun things to talk about today. We're going to build the ultimate gravel bike. The three of us are going to talk about our favorite tires, wheels, frames, components, all that good stuff. But before we start out, we are going to ask you guys for a favor here. There's been a lot of enthusiasm around these episodes, and we kind of want to make it official. And to do that, we need a logo. So what's happening? What are we doing here, Mike? You explain.
We are calling everybody to send us basically your version of the Alternative Cycling Network's logo. We started a Gmail account, so you can email it directly to us. We're going to take all of the submissions while you're watching this video, and ideally next week we're going to pick our top favorites from all of us, and then choose one to use as our official logo for the Alternative Cycling Network on this YouTube live stream.
Right. And we're doing this not because we're cheap, but because we want community involvement. That's the story, right, guys?
Right. That's what we're telling ourselves. So yeah, please play along.
It's not because Fiverr was too expensive. It's just we want to tap into the creative juices of the community, if you will.
Yeah, so like we're all in this together, so why wouldn't we get to the final product together as well?
Yeah. Yeah,
supporting local artists.
Sweet. So if you guys are in the YouTube chat, let us know if we're sounding good, looking good, and where you're watching from. Would like to highlight some comments here. So, okay, we've got some return viewers ready. Berkeley Martinez was in the last one. Steve Fuller, big fan of ACN.
Already.
As you can see, we've got a stand-in logo in the back there, hopefully to be replaced by something you guys designed. Should be super fun. But before we get into the episode today, where we talk and build our perfect gravel bike, let's do a little channel catch-up. So let's start with Eric. What's been up on your channel this week?
This week, I pushed really hard to get a video out pretty much every day. Today's the first failure. Mostly I just like burnt out. I was like, wow, this is really hard when you're working full time because I'm working again. But probably my standout video that I'm most excited about was the Does It Suck with the stem. Just trying to emulate what Rides of Japan does a little bit with flashlight technique. And I don't know, like try and pick something so mundane as a stem and just make this like wildly entertaining 10-minute long video. And like it was super well received. So
you should have done like the audio clip of you like installing it like ASMR, like that would have been really good.
Yeah. But I think that's gonna be like a regular like show is like it's stolen from Unbox Therapy. Like he always did a show called Does It Suck with like you know crappy stuff. Hopefully the stuff I use isn't particularly crappy, but it is fun to try and take like small stuff, make an interesting review with it, and I think that's something I'm going to try and do weekly at least.
Yeah, cool. How about you, Mike? What's been going on your channel?
For me, I've been obviously like trying to load up episodes and stuff coming forward. But this coming up Tuesday, is going to be my conclusion to my Monster Gravel Budget Mullet Bike Build series, which is actually sitting right up here. Little. That's all you get. So subscribe. No, but that's what's going up next week. And then after that, I have a lot of cool reviews, and I'm getting into a little bit of how I carry cameras and film, along with product reviews that are going to be coming forward in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Yeah, I watched your tie bolt video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
where Mike replaced all the steel bolts on the adventure bike and with tie bolts. And what was the grand?
I saved 30 grams for about $40. And if
Nice.
you look, and like, I mean, anybody is like, the comments are great. The comments were hilarious. They were just like a mixture of things I didn't even think of because I live in California. Like guys were like, oh yeah, all of my mountain bikes or my backpacking bike is all Thai because it doesn't rust. And I didn't even think about that aspect. And I was like, that's genius. And then it was just like, if you spent $40, you could save more weight somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, but this is like for the guy who like you're out of things, like you need something to do. We're all in quarantine, like buy yourself some Thai bolts. I don't know, like, you know, and so
Yeah, you're not spending anywhere else.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true.
So yeah, it's just like, it was just funny. And like, there's cool points that I didn't think about that were very interesting. Like I said, the anti-rust or corrosion. I had a few guys hitting me with like scientific facts on like strength to weight ratio. You know, it was all over the map, but it was fun. I mean, that was it. It was just like, hey, I'm doing this anyway. And it stumbled me into a way to actually save money buying titanium bolts, because it all stemmed from my buddy Mario, who was like, hey, if you don't order like stem or like water bottle bolts from Amazon, you can get like 50 for the same price as long as it doesn't say cycling or bicycle. And then that stemmed into, I threaded in one of my Torx bolts from my disc rotor into my like bottle cage bolt. I needed it for like an emergency thing. I was like, oh, these fit. It's the same thread pitch, whatever. And then I found out that you can buy basically double the hardware for the same amount of money if you go Torx T25. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty sweet hack. I didn't think to look outside the bike world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like we've got quite the global audience here. I saw the Philippines, we've got Colombia, someone from Serbia. So this is rad. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Let's see. We're already at 115 viewers in not too long, so that's pretty awesome.
7 minutes.
In 7 minutes. New record.
Yeah, that's it.
So if you guys are just stepping in, again, this is the Alternative Cycling Network, and we're going to ask you guys to help us come up with a logo for the show. So email it to alternativecyclingnetwork@gmail.com. I know, super creative and exciting email. I literally created that account about half an hour before we logged on.
Can't believe we got it. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Also, we have to preface, because I've already gotten this, you can't just make it like the globally and cycling networks like chain globe thing with like ACN. Like you can't just do that. Like we've had it. If you've tuned in last week, I've already had a lawsuit before for my old YouTube name. Like we don't need another one. So like let's do something a little more original, please.
Yeah. So user originality, ACN, Alternative Cycling Network. Would love to see a user-generated logo. I think we'll run it. Just email us this week, and we'll off camera we'll look at them. And should we reveal it next week, or is that too soon, guys?
We'll see.
I think it depends on submissions. If we get a lot, I think we'll show our favorites. Maybe do a poll.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
It's live. It's live, baby. Hey.
There's no plan here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The show's held together mostly with duct tape and baling wire. So we're gonna play it loose.
Yeah. And
all right. So today's topic, we are going to be building our ultimate versions of the perfect gravel bike, and we discussed last week. I think the way we should do this is by components and slowly build the bike up. We'll each take a turn, and I think it makes sense to start with wheels and tires. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep,
sure.
Yep.
Okay, who wants to go first?
I'll do it.
Okay,
I'll go first. Because wheels and tires is probably like my favorite subject that I don't get to deal with personally enough, because they are expensive and they're pretty specific to bikes. So like all day, I'm just like, I've always wanted to build a road like gravel wheel set with profile racing hubs, because that's what I have on my BMX. I think it'd be really cool to like bring that over. Whatever the lightest ones you can get. I don't think they have a whole lot of choice. And then just Sapim laser spokes to keep everything very light spoke-wise. And then just the beefiest, kind of heaviest mountain bike rim that I could get. And like I made this video before, and those Zip Motos comes to mind because they just seem so tough. but something along those lines would be my thought for just like the toughest rim with like the lightest spoke and the coolest hub to me that I could think of. And then I'd probably run nanos. Like I like the tread of nanos. I like that they're raised in the center, and then I like that they have the side lugs. Like I rode them on the dirt cheap bike that's right there somewhere. That's a good tire. Like that's a really good tire on the road and on gravel. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Cool. How about you, Mike? What's your what would be the tire and the wheel for your perfect gravel bike?
So I've been a big 650 guy for a bit. I haven't ridden 700s in a long time on my gravel bike. So for me, it would be, I mean, I have like my dream wheel set already. It's the Industry 9 ultralights. But if I was going to build a set for the money, I've actually been able to build a set that's relatively the same weight for a lot less money, is this Stan's Crest Mark IIIs. Those are ridiculously light for aluminum rims. You can get them in 24, 28 hole, Supreme spokes, and hub wise, I probably would do like a DT Swiss just for like serviceability and like parts, but I would do 6-bolt. All my wheels are center lock right now, and trying to like line those all up is a total pain to where I'd fully convert over to 6-bolt because there's so much more adjustment in rotors for that. So that I think would give you enough width and tire to match. Would either be the WTB Ventures, and this is something I've seen, but it's not stateside yet. I've seen the Ventures in a 2.0 on the bomb tracks.
Oh wow!
But those that's like a super like zoomed in enhanced like, you know, like CSI thing that I did, but like they had, and like it's spec'd on a bike, but they don't have it stateside yet. So I don't know if that's a European only or it's something that's eventually going to come here. That tire in a 2.0 I think is perfect. But for right now, what I've been running that I like a lot as well is the S-Works Fast Tracks. That's an XC mountain tire that they sell in a 2.0 and a 2.2. And it's super light. It's the same weight as a 47 650 with obviously more volume. That's been my go-to tire that I have on the wheels that are right above my head.
Right. Cool. For me, I think the tire that I would build the bike around would have to be, 650B clearly. And I'm a super huge fan of the Soma Cazaderos. They've got a 650B by 50 millimeter version. And I like them because they've got a high center ridge, some side knobs. It's not the most aggressive tire, so I wouldn't take it on super muddy or technical terrain. But for just gravel road, it rolls pretty quick. It's got nice supple casing, tan wall, and I've had pretty good luck with them in terms of durability. In terms of the wheels, I would probably go with, I think they're the NVG27 rims. Carbon. Again, this is like if price were no limit, and primarily because they've got a lifetime warranty on their stuff now.
Oh yeah, that's the real. Yeah, that's really
That's the thing. Yeah, it's hella expensive, but if you break it, there's a path to replacement. And in terms of hubs, probably I like Chris King, but I like the White Industry hubs a little bit better. Just because it's easier to remove the rotor. We tend to travel a lot when there's no travel restrictions, and it's easier to get a center lock off of the White Industries rather than the Chris King. So that would be my tire wheels. So cool. So next part of the bike, probably fairly important, would be, let's talk frame and fork, guys. So what would be the chassis around which all these parts are going to be hung from? Let's do Eric again.
So I oddly like the Envy like gravel and cross fork, so I would build around it. It's certainly not because it's popular, but I think it is the best looking fork that you can get. And then I would have to go like a custom steel frame with probably like nothing too fancy in the way of tubing. I'm a little bit nervous of like thin wall like Columbus or like nice tubing, but I think it'd be really cool to have like a dropout that slides, like certainly slides back so that you could maybe build it as a single speed if you wanted to, but like if it was on like a diagonal, so that when it went back, it also went up a little bit, so it changed like your bottom bracket height as you were changing like your wheelbase. And then it would also need to look good. I don't know how you'd make that look like. So it's like this creative design that I have in my head that I'm like, cool, like a modular frame, like, you know, those like flip chips that you see in mountain bikes. Like, you can change your bottom bracket height or you can change your rear travel a little bit. Like, how cool would it be to be like, okay, I have my bike built as like this fun higher bottom bracket, like cross race bike today, but tomorrow we're going gravel riding and I want that slightly longer wheelbase with the lower bottom bracket, slacker head tube. Like that would just be cool. That's like endless possibility. Plus being able to go like, okay, this bike is boring now. I've owned it for 7 years. Let's build it into a single speed. Like
that's what the Otto bikes are like that. They've got a sliding dropout, and there's also a slight change in height to kind of compensate.
That's sweet. Back. Like that's super cool.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, how about you?
Mine, I'm kind of working on in the background. The guy who built my all-road bike, Varco Cycles, we've been talking about, like, basically we both realize that we don't ride road a lot. And so we're trying to basically develop, my ultimate bike would be based around, if I could make my own fork, it'd be like the new whiskey fork they just came out with that has the 3-pack mounts. It's a 700 by 50. I would like the flip chip in it, kind of like the Columbus makes one, but theirs doesn't have the 3-pack mounts because I'd want this bike to be like bike packable and, you know, gravel and everything else. Steel frame with a lot of, I really like the clean integrated mounts because when I went to Grinduro last year, my favorite bikes were the ones that had like the frame bags that were like bolt in, you know, like all very seamless looking. There's a few little things that I want to do for my own touches. Like I want to add like bottle bosses to like the rear chain stays to like run like 2 Arrow whiskey flasks, you know, for the rear for less drag, you know, like little things like that. Like I want to be able to carry like that, you know, however many ounces of whiskey you could put 40, you know, however many 47 different, you know, flasks all around the bike. But I think that would be really cool, as well as the sliding drop to where I want it to. Ideally, I don't know how realistic this is, and that's what me and Alan from Varco Cycles are working on, is if we can tuck like a 35 slick and then do a sliding drop to where we could still run a 50 and a 2.2 mountain tire, that would be ideal. I think after 2.2, you're really getting into the tire's so heavy, it's going to make the bike really different as far as handling. It's not going to be as playful. I think that's the max as far as like a 650 should go for a gravel bike. A 50, I think, is still very big, but I think that market is going to expand. So I want the bike to be like future-proofed if I'm going to build it. And then the last thing that I've noticed on the current bike that I'm building and like all other forks is I want a fork that has like the front bolt so I can run a rack, but in a carbon fork. Like that apparently is like non-existent.
Those are far and few between.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
that's one of the reasons I prefer like steel or alloy forks, just because you can run like a rando rack or go.
Yeah, my fixation Sparta fork I had on my Poseidon X build that had one, but I thought that was like a normal thing. But then every fork I've had since like doesn't have it. So yeah.
So really quickly before I tell you guys mine, what's the geo you guys would go for? It would be tucked or long, or it sounds like both of you want something where there's like options where you can make it longer if you want to.
I would want like a fair. I don't want toe overlap. So like tucked as I could go with no toe overlap.
Right.
Like I have a real problem with seeing bikes with the down tube and the wheel being here. Like when it's like, oh, so close, but then you kind of run into.
Yeah.
Obviously, you run into tire fitment issues and like toe overlap in that way. But probably like a 72-degree head tube angle, fairly short head tube, definitely compact geometry, like a lot of seat posts for days. You know, and then the modular rear triangle for sure. I like bikes in like the 65, you know, bottom bracket drop area, and then like, you know, whatever you do modular wise is whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me, geometry wise, I mean, I'm very short-legged for my height. Like I'm 5'11" and I have like a 30-ish inseam. So like I need all the top tube. So for me, compact geometry, I'd like, if I again was going to build my ideal frame, I'd like it to be built around a 0 offset seat post, so I could run a dropper if I wanted. I don't want it to be like my permanent seat post, but I'd like to be able to run it because every frame I've ever production frame, I've never been able to run a 0 offset because of how long I am torso wise. So I think for me, compact geo, it would be built around, you know, a 0 offset seat post for all sizes. And then as far as like head tube and geometry, kind of in between like an endurance bike and gravel bike, I'm moderately flexible. I can handle like a 7 to 8 centimeter like saddle to bar drop, but I kind of want that like in the middle as far as like if it's going to be my all day endurance or everything bike, to where I want clearance for bags to where I can't have the head tube too short. But I don't want it like so tall to where like I'm going to hate it on the road. Right. So something kind of in between.
Yeah. Cool. Well, for me, it's probably no surprise, but I would want a Thai version of the Crest Limbora, but just the frame. So here's the thing. I've been, you know, I was thinking about, well, would I want a Thai fork? And the problem, you know, like with the Bear Claw Thunderhawk that I tested, you know, it's a Thai fork, but to kind of compensate for the inherent flex, they had to make the fork really beefy. So it almost looks like mountain bike stanchions, right? So I would actually go with a Thai frame, you know, basically the same geometry, and get a custom steel fork from like Chris Eichelhart. So it's going to be like segmented steel, have all the mounts, 3-pack mounts, rando rack mounts and everything. But yeah, not titanium in the fork. And in terms of geometry, I mean, I just like how, you know, the Crest rides in my size. So fairly short in the rear, so 425 rear chainstay with the front trail around 70. And for me, that's like a happy spot where it feels like quick in the rear, but because of the slightly higher trail than like an endurance road bike, it descends pretty well when things get kind of gnarly. So that would be, so everyone's saying my audio is not coming from the big mic. Sorry, guys. Again, held together by duct tape.
That's right. Duct tape and zip ties, baby. That's it.
I had to change the batteries on my mic setup right before. Okay, so what component should we talk about next? We've got the wheels and tires. We've got the frame. Should we talk gearing and controls? So, Mike, what would you do it 1x, 2x, 3x?
So I just did a video on this that's going to be coming out. I am trying to go with the new build series. Like I want to test it on gravel and road going 1x, because I have my all-road bike / road bike is a 2x system. But I think for the ultimate gravel bike, I would go 1x. But the big proponent of making that work for me is the cassette that I'm running, which is a Zito 950. They do make a 946 like E13 does, but that 9 allows you to run such a small front ring and still get the climbing gear you want as well as the top end that you want. So like for anybody that's watching this, rough numbers, going from an 11 in the back to a 9 is like adding 6 teeth in the front. So you could have a 40, and if you run a 34, it's like the same, your top speed doesn't change. So for me, I would run a 1x. I would run my budget mullet bike build, very similar to Russ, what you found out, like which is to me Apex for the money, with the Garbrook, or however you say it properly, cage, rear cage with the Zito cassette, with a force crank, because based on my internet weights, because I don't have Access mullet bike build, it's actually lighter complete than the current Access build if you run a force crank with the Eagle rear and the Eagle cassette. If you run the Jaguar Elite like linked aluminum housing, it's actually a lighter system overall than that, with actually more range, because the 9 obviously gets you more range than the 10 does.
Yeah. Cool.
Does that 9-tooth cog, like, is that harder on that cog and chain to use that a lot, do you think?
I it's a little noisier is the most like thing that I always tell people. Like there's a lot of people who run 12-speed chains on this cassette or the E13 cassette, which is what I used to run. I got this from them to test out when they first launched it, and so I've had good experience with it. So a 12-speed chain is a little quieter. I just like the little bit more robustness of an 11.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's been good so far.
Yeah. Can I do a quick audio test if you guys in the chat?
Sure.
I figured out why my audio wasn't. I had the mic plugged into the wrong input. So if it sounds better, let me know in the chat.
That'll do it.
Amateur. Okay, Eric. What's gonna be your drivetrain and controls?
I would probably do a 2x setup. White Industries crank with like the variable bolt circle diameter. And I'd probably run like fairly small chain rings. I think I'd do like a 42. Like
that's big to me.
Yeah, well, I guess, but like I know you guys do quite, like your climbs are quite long. Like you guys tend to get on quite long climbs. Like the gearing for me, and I like not everybody shares this same sentiment, but like gearing for me, like I'm happy with an 11 through to 32 and like a 32 tooth chain. Like I'm happy 1-to-1. Like my gravel bikes could look fairly road gearing for like modern day like standards.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, our longest climbs are the Cabot Trail. They're fairly north of me, and I'm not there all the time. So like around here, it's very punchy. You're down, up, down, up, down, up. I don't need a 42 or a 50 really. It looks cooler, but like I don't need anything but like something that'll get me pretty good on the road and a decent enough range cassette. So like, and then I like the idea of having a White Industries crank that is, you know, variable bolt circle diameter. You can put anything you want on it. You don't have to worry about a spider. So like, I'm like, oh, maybe I need something a little smaller. You know, you just kind of order that, put it on. And then, you know, if I wanted to go 1x, which there would be days that I do, I'd be like, okay, well, I'll just, like, I know for a fact that drivetrain-wise, I change so often on all my bikes that it would happen anyway. But my argument when I was kind of thinking of my dream bike before was like wireless SRAM shifting for the days that I'm like, I want to ride brakeless fixed gear. And like, you just undo it and it's off the bike.
You just pull it off.
Yeah. And like I was hanging around the Norco tent at Cyclocross Nationals this year, and a couple friends of mine were the team mechanics for the team. And like, you know, they're just looking to kill time, and they're like, okay, well, you know, I have this bike here, you know, they're all immaculately maintained. And Mitch was just like, I don't know, I guess I could clean this derailleur. And like, you know how taking derailleurs off is annoying? It's just like with Axis, you just
one bolt,
and then it's off, and he's just like, you know, cleaning it, and then it's back together, and I'm like, oh no, label, that's it. So that's kind of my argument there. But there's so many drivetrains I want to try. Like, I want money's no option in this, so I would order them all, and I would change them out very regularly.
Every week. It's so much fun.
That's right. That's what you guys all like watching, right?
Got to make that content. So drivetrain for me, I think I would go. I like Eric's idea with the 46 or with the White Industries double. So I would, if I were to have two options, I know we're supposed to have one. I would do the 4630 and probably figure out a way to put like a 40 tooth cassette in the back, just for, you know, just to make people upset.
That's also why we're here.
Right. But I've learned to appreciate 1x. And if I were to do 1x, I would probably actually stick with the 38 tooth oval absolute chain ring in the front, and in the rear do the 11 to 50 in 11 speeds. I just have this thing about, you know, I don't want to go into an XD driver. I like the, you know, staying hyperglide, just so I can mess around with my bikes, and have so 11 to 50 in the back, 11 speed. And for the derailleur and shifters, I've been messing around a lot with SRAM on the channel. but I just had a new review bike come in, and the Shimano just shifts so much better.
Really?
Yeah.
well,
So the Sage King that came in, it's a the Shimano GRX, and
Okay.
the rear derailleur's a XTR, and they use a tan pan to
Oh,
make it
okay.
talk to each other.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that combo is like super smooth. Like I feel like
but that's all top of the line stuff. I mean,
Well, yeah.
money's no object in this project.
right.
Right. Yeah.
But the only thing, like with the I actually wouldn't use the GRX levers as much as I like how they're shaped and all that stuff. I'd go for something with a cable brake, which is a good segue into brakes.
Okay.
So what?
Wow! Look at that! Look at us! Look at us on the line!
man.
Hey, look at that, man! This is like it's scripted.
I know, right. Yeah, you can tell with all my audio issues. You know what? I realized what happened. So I've got the audio is coming out of here, and instead of it being plugged into the mic input on the camera, it was plugged into the headphone. So
that'll do it.
Like it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
We're pros, guys.
That's it.
Okay. So Mike, let's talk brakes. What would your brakes be?
Even though Russ, you said this, that it was we had to choose one, and apparently you got to choose two because you're the host. So no, it would be hydro. I mean, in a dream bike, and it's what I want to do with the build that's right above my head. I really want to try the Hope 4 pistons. They make basically a factory replacement caliper for SRAM and Shimano. They were at Granduro. I talked to the guys about it, the engineering and everything else behind it. It's not necessarily for power, it's for modulation, which I really like. So the pad is physically longer, so you're going to get better wear, more modulation because you're getting more brake surface, and that should also dissipate, just like in a race car, 4-piston rotors, 4-piston calipers converted to. Your brake fade should be basically non-existent for a bicycle. So really, really want to get a set of those. So if you have hydraulic, it's like a $250 upgrade, I believe, for the calipers, which is, it's money for both. I believe they're about 120 a piece from what I remember. Obviously that's with pads. Obviously you're going to pay. I mean, for me, I have to pay. That includes you got to pay for service and the whole bit. But in theory, as like a guy who I'm into cars and all this, it totally makes sense. And you can also obviously get them color coded to Hope's, whole bit. So aesthetically, totally worth it. But I think that would be the dream brake setup. But for budget, my favorite, hands down for the money, is what I ran on my Poseidon, which was the Hwin R1s, which are the same as the
Yokozuna.
There it is.
Yeah.
Those with a compressionless housing for the money. Amazing.
Right.
But you need to run the compressionless housing. It makes a world of difference.
It does. I have it set up on my Crust, and I just swapped out to the Advent group set. And I don't have the compressionless housing. And it breaks like ass.
Yep. Night and day. I believe my buddy Mario's in the chat. He had those brakes on his when we built our bikes together, and I had that housing compared to him, and it was when I said his bike would be completely different, it would pull to the bars, and we had to tune them very differently. But those brakes for the money with compressionless housing, kind of the best way to go if you don't want to go hydraulic, or you want the simplicity of why I built my all-road bike around them or something similar, is just for serviceability. I can't really mess those up, and I can do it myself, where my gravel bike, I have to take it to a shop. I don't want to, one, mess with the brakes myself, two, don't have the tools and the bleed kit and all that. And you only do it once in a while. Yeah. Eric's got 47 bikes, so he might warrant getting that, but that's about it. Yeah. So
with brake fluid every so often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Eric. So what brakes would you run?
Well, I was just gonna say the stock SRAM brakes, SRAM Force or whatever that comes with them. I didn't know about those Hopes that you just mentioned. Those sound good. I'll take those.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we're done. So let's
those sound awesome. The brakes are always such a bummer, kind of especially for hydraulic, because it's so specific to what the design of the lever is, right? And coming from BMX, there was always the ability to run whatever you wanted. And I remember when I got into all this, I was like, I think it'd be cool to run campy levers and a Shimano, rear derailleur, and everyone kind of had to all right, Eric, just like it doesn't work like
Slow
that.
your roll.
Yeah, like you need to learn. And I'm like, well, and then like I'm gonna put a SRAM cassette on it. And they're like, no, not with candy. Like, and then the rules started to come out. And I was like, oh man.
Well, after what was it, like 7-speed? That's when it all went to hell, like something like that. Yeah.
There's pretty
We're not
decent.
friends anymore. Like,
Yeah. That's one thing that's kind of frustrated me with the modern group sets. It's like I like to mix and match stuff, and like everyone's gotten so proprietary in the last like 5-10 years that it's it's taken the fun out of working on bikes.
it is a bummer. So like to hear that there is another option and like that it's sick, I'm like, yeah, I want that. Like, I wish everybody made one. So like, I mean, it's not sustainable. Like, it's not.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Because nobody wants to do what we're doing. Like, there's like, what are we at? How many people are watching now? 200 maybe?
Yeah.
183.
Yeah. You're all nuts. Yeah.
Pretty hard to make a living machining specific parts for 183 people who might
Right. And that probably won't, because they're all like, whatever I got's fine. Like,
he's actually worked not bad.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me, and I don't think I'm anyway. So at Grinduro, there was a focus group that SRAM did, which I thought was very interesting. They basically had a couple of bikes with their SRAM mullet builds on them. This is like kind of pre-announcement, not kind of. And they were just asking literally like, what do you guys, if you have ETAP, the 11-speed version, what would you want out of it? And everybody said the same thing, like the compatibility, which they did have. That was kind of like a new thing that they just launched access I think a month or so before. So a few people had the new group. But for me, I literally just told them, like, I was like, I just want a mechanical version of this. Like, like that's it. Like, and they're just like, well, like, and literally the industrial designers, the engineers were all there, all really nice people. I talked to a lot of them. I gave my input, and I said, this is the cassette that I'm running. I was like, I'm running your Apex as a mullet as I can get with a 946. And like the engineer leans over to me. He's like, that's more range than what our cassette is. And I was like, I know. I know. That's why I'm telling you, like, to put a 9 on there, and the guy was like, okay. He's like, well, if you switch over, because I showed them my bike as my old TCX and they liked the paint job, and I showed them the setup. I was like, look, dude, it's down the street. Like, it's right here, my campsite. I'll show it to you. And they're like, all right, well, how'd you get that to work? And I was like, yeah, you say 42 is the only thing that works. I was like, 46, no big deal. Like, just your beam limit's like, a foot long. It's fine. And I was like, I just tried it and it worked. And I've been running it for like 1,000 miles at this point. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, but they wouldn't say anything, but that's all I want. Like, I want a mechanical mullet build for everybody, because that's why I think like Russ, your 10-speed, the microshift setup, awesome. That was super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why it's so complicated. I mean, just give us the range
I don't get it
and the
either.
drop bar. Like, I've never understood like this dichotomy between, okay, if you ride road, these are the gears, this is the range you get. And if you ride mountain, these are, this is the range that you get. Like, why can't, I don't know. It's just never made sense to me.
Like, the weird part is the derailleur needs to be designed in such a way that the distance between your cogs doesn't get so bad on the smaller ones that the shifting falls apart.
Right.
And that's all derailleur design, right?
Yeah. Right. Totally. And I think that's where, for me, that's really where it lies, because if you look at ETAP was red only for like almost 2 years because they were selling so well. They're like, why would we make a cheaper version and make force? Then it kind of finally tapered off while they're, I'm assuming, again, working in the background, making force and red, doing that. And then now the mullet build is so, I mean, for all the subscribers, right. But the subscribers to all of our channels, they understand there's another option out there. But for the mass consumer that is out there, they don't know that. They think that that's really it. And I think that's really where we kind of chime in. But if you didn't see any of our stuff, it's like, okay, well, that's the only option. It's $2,000 to get that. I'll pay it because I don't think there's anything else out there. And as a company, it's like, if you're getting checks and it's selling and you can't make them fast enough, why would you make a cheaper mechanical variant? And the last part of that is I think gravel bikes are now finally deep seated into every brand to where I could see the request for that. I think that's where GRX kind of fills in.
Right.
I think SRAM's version would be a little cooler and a little better, but I think they could make a version of a GRX, that would fill a gap that's there that people want, obviously, because they're paying for it.
Yeah, I have to say, like it frustrated me how long it took for GRX to come out. Like, finally there's an option for subcompacts from one of the big component makers, but it took them like forever. And it's been like a proven combination. It's like what
Shimano always does that though. They always tend to watch everybody else, and they're like,
yeah. And
Like,
didn't was it
they weren't really doing, and like even like a road clutch derailleur, that's very recent.
Yeah.
That's new. Like
they're not risk takers.
Oh no, I think, and who is it? I don't know if it was the gravel cyclist. He did the GRX 2x with the 1142 on the rear.
Okay, did he?
I think somebody, I saw it once. It was the subcompact, which is the 4630 front, and I believe it was an 1140 or 42 in the rear. And I want to say it was him. It was a review bike. He just threw the cassette on there, and he was like, "It shifts. You can't do like big, obviously," because he was like running the stock chain that came on that bike. So like it was like real stretched out. But I think that's really where it's like, I get it that these companies are playing it safe, but I think they should suggest chain rings like, hey, this is the capacity with this front combo, because I think that's really where it is. Like I run an 1136 on my ETAP bike, and Wi-Fi caps out at 1132, and I've run that cassette for, I don't know, 500 or 600 miles, no problem since I got it.
And your bike hasn't exploded.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the internet exploded, but I mean, like my bike hasn't. So yeah.
I remember seeing, you guys know Durian Rider? He made a video like years ago.
Yeah.
And I think he put a 40 tooth in the rear. And it was like a 5034 in the front, and he was using a Tanpan or not Tanpan, a Goat Link or Road Link or something.
Yeah.
To pull that
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I didn't answer the brake question. You guys already know what I'd choose. I would choose the Yokozuna Ultimos. Like Mike said, it's an interesting kind of hydraulic cable actuated brake. There's something about like my bike touring background. I'm just like super paranoid about having components that I can't work on in the field when things go sideways. And for me, like hydros, there's no denying that the stopping power is there and the modulation is there. But with the riding that we do here in Montana, where it gets really remote and, bike packing and all that stuff, like I value kind of field repairability over pure stopping power. So I definitely go for something like the Yokozunas or the Jun R1s, whatever.
Twins.
Because they're great. Yeah. If you get a chance to ride them, it's, I would say with the right housing, like 90%, 95% there. Like you can stop from the hoods, feels good. You can, feel like, I don't know, the reservoir or something in the brake levers.
And they're easy to adjust. That's the big thing for me. If anybody's looking for them in the comments, it's the Juin. It's JUIN R1. You can see a review for them on Bike Radar. I think they gave them a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Great brakes.
Like, if you like, I had a chance to ride the TRP high roads
HRDs.
Ages ago, but I can't remember like how they felt. Do you have any?
I have them on my road bike. They're way more spongy.
Oh really?
And for road, I bought the like different lever arm. So there's a lever with the TRPs. You have to basically like put the brake cable in with it like hard mounted to a certain point, so it adds tension to it. The problem is with the road lever, if you like I have small hands, so like my levers aren't all the way kicked out. They're kind of like 1 or 2 clicks in. It hits the bar tape and then it gets stuck. So I bought the like shorter arm to change the lever pull. It helped, but it still like had issues. And adjusting those things, like you have to like hold it just right and then like try to tighten the cable, and it's a whole big thing. The Huins or the yours are literally just a twist knob, and it's like that's it. And it's done. It's super simple. And weight weenies. They are the same weight as the TRP Spires because they are 50 grams lighter than the TRP HYRDs, which I believe is what the Spire weight difference is. And you get obviously the mechanical and hydraulic mineral oil assisted braking advantage. So for the weight and the money, those, again, with a compressionless housing, like it's going to be probably your lightest option as well.
Yeah. Cool. So we got the wheel tires, we got the frame, the gearing, controls, the brakes. What's left? How about
handlebars and seat posts? Yeah.
Okay, handlebars and seat posts. Who wants to chime in?
Eric, go for it.
Handlebar and seat post.
Gosh.
Track drops.
Yeah, well.
flat bars.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know what shape I like. I guess I would like to find the lightest version of it. The what are they? The 3T Ergusons. Like, they are the shape that I like. Lots of real estate on the drops to actually like hold on to. There's no flare. Like, there's no flare to them, but I haven't really, been sold on the flare. If there was a version of them with maybe 5 degrees, I could live with that, but it would be a compromise. Like, I would just want a lighter version of what I normally ride.
3T makes one of those. Japan Cycling or Cycling to Japan. He's got a set. It's a 3T. I forgot what they're called. They're 3T. All their bar names are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they make a flared carbon version, and theirs is cool because it's a straight top, so your hoods are vertical, but then the flare is separate. There's the only one that does that apparently. So yeah,
I can't handle when the hoods are
right. Yeah.
That's
why you hating? Why you hating on us?
I don't know. Maybe I just haven't been around it enough. But the wood chippers and stuff, I'm just you are terrible.
I'm surprised you didn't go for the double decker Canyon rail bars.
It is bizarre.
Do they sell those aftermarket?
They should. They'd make $0.
Oh, that's it.
So funny.
I feel like Eric is the only one that can get those. I feel like as far if they sell those aftermarket as an option, if Russ, if me or you get a set for review, Eric gets the first one. Eric, yeah.
Sure. Be mad that they even exist the entire time they're in my possession. But these are so stupid.
Yeah. 1 year later, the video will come out. Yeah.
How do you even get the levers on this damn thing?
Yeah.
Crossbars in the way.
How about Eric? How about seat post? Would you do a dropper on your gravel bike, or would it just be just a straight up post?
It would just be a straight post. It'd be a zero setback. Carbon from a reputable company. Actually, one of those really fancy, those boutique carbon companies that the seat post or the seat rail clamps is just these tiny little dainty things that just kind of.
The clamp is it called a hope and a prayer? That's what.
I want that.
Yeah,
I'll break it.
It's 100 grams, and it's held on by a hope and a prayer. Yeah, that's it.
We'll break it very quickly, but I like the way those look, so I want that.
All right, Mike, how about you?
For me, I'd essentially just want a lighter weight redshift stem. With I really like the Ridefar carbon gravel bar. I don't have one. But again, we're doing Dream Bike because one, that thing is it's almost the same weight as my Easton E100 road bar, which is one of the lighter ones. It's a production bar with no weight limit. The Schmalka or the, what is it? MFGK or MGFK, something like that. Without going super, super boutique-y, the Easton version is super light. If they made a redshift stem that was between my regular stem and its current weight, that'd be ideal. Because it's almost double of most stems. I love the ride feel. The Ridefar bar has the integrated ports, so you can really streamline as far as cable routing and all that kind of stuff. But what I've been currently running that I like a lot as an alternative is the Salsa cow chipper. I always was like, I ran a 42 width bar on my road bike. I ran that on my cross bike, and then I just experimented that with my last bike. I really like it. The short reach, I have to add stem length to compensate for my fit. I think the ride far bar is kind of like mid length as far as reach goes, so I could kind of shrink the stem down a little bit. But that would probably be my favorite. And I do like, which I haven't tried in practice, would be their like Aero clip-on, which like you could kind of see trying out. I don't know how it would feel. For rear seat post, I really like the old 3T diff lock seat post that I have. It's essentially dual cam gears in the seat post head. So there's a single bolt, and then you just like rotate it to get your seat angle. Huh. So depending on the frame geometry, you can't like fine tune it really well, but you can do it. The benefit is it'll never slip because you have two cams in each other. And then there's like a 3 millimeter elastomer housing around the diff. So that gets you, I believe, like 10 mil of travel. So it's not Redshift seat post level. It's not a dropper. Right. I think that's like the happy middle ground. If I could get something with a little bit more elastomer in it. Right. But with that style is set, because I love the single bolt to just like just quickly adjust it. Right. But they don't make that seat post anymore. I don't know why. I think now it's like the time to bring it back. 3T, hit me up. I'll only take like 5% of sales, whatever. But no, I think that seat post now is super relevant because I've had many of Specialized bikes and Specialized seat posts, and I have totally like hit a bump and my saddle's like doing that or whatever. So I think that style is relevant now, and the elastomer style setup is more comfortable no matter how you split it, basically.
Yeah. I think for me, for handlebars, I'm a big fan of the Ritchie Ventures in 46. I think they just came out with a 52. It's a bummer they didn't make an intermediary step, but the 46s they're a wide 46. And I like them because they've got a fairly short drop. They got the ergonomic kind of kinks in them, which I wasn't a huge fan at first because I like, being able to choose, where I place my hands, but they actually made sense in terms of the placement.
How is that, by the way, with the middle kink? Do you just sit behind it or sit in front of it, or?
A little bit behind it.
Okay.
A little bit behind it. So I'm stoked on that bar. In terms of stem, because I would have a custom Eigelhard steel fork, which has so much natural flex to it. I would just run rigid stem. No particular, preference. Doesn't have to be super fancy. For the seat post, however, I do like the idea of some suspension. I'd be curious to try some kind of titanium stem to see if it actually makes a difference. Or what's that brand, that suspension seat post that Cane Creek makes?
The Silka? No, Silka makes one. I've seen it.
It's super light, and it's like a...
it's just like a little elastomer piece. It's a thud. It used to be the Thud Buster. That was like the big boy touring one or mountain bike, and then they made a smaller version. I don't know what it's called, but
I'm EE or something.
It's based off of Crane Creek's like EE is like their lightweight brakes, so it's like that version of the seat post. Yeah. I would love to test that thing out. I have a Redshift seat post I'm waiting to test out on my bike build. Yeah. It's heavy as hell, but it's got tons of travel and it makes sense. But I would love like the intermediary like weight and like compliance wise like seat post for like most rides. That's why, like I said, I like the 3T. But I think I've tried the Connect, or formerly Body Float, and it's a lot of seat posts. I mean, if you think, actually when I weighed them, they were about par. But what I liked about the Redshift seat posts is you could really firm it up, and with the Connect, it was always kind of a little
bobby. Even I'd crank up the preload or whatever just to stiffen it, and I would almost use the full travel every single time.
Does that not bother you? Do you guys not get bothered by the change in your crank, like to saddle height.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why, like, of the two, the one that bothered me the least was the red shift.
Yeah.
But it's you kind of adapt. I mean, it's not like a massive drop, but it can be like a little disconcerting at first.
Yeah, like it's noticeable.
Yeah, to me with my 3T when I ran it at first on my road bike, it almost initially felt like my rear tire was kind of flat. Like that's how much compliance it was. So that was really weird to get. I got used to it, and then when I put on my cross bike, it felt super natural. The good thing was I could run a little more PSI if needed based on terrain, and I would compensate in the seat post. So it would feel the same, but I'd have more PSI. So if I was worried about burping or flatting or bottoming out, I could run a little more. The red shift compared to other ones that I've seen, the nice thing about theirs is it floats level. So it almost like goes in line with the seat tube, like as far as how they did it. So when I demoed it at Sea Otter and then I got my review unit, which I haven't tested in the field yet, it goes, the saddle angle doesn't change. It goes along with the seat tube. So realistically, you feel the bump, but you're right back to where you were. So it's essentially just like it just dampens it. Again, it feels like you have lower tire pressure or you have more volume, whatever you want to call it. So it's just kind of softening that initial hit. Yeah. But you're going to return right where you were. So it's where instead of just like lifting off the saddle a little bit to do that, you can do it seated. It's like the best way to explain it.
Have you guys tried this guy? The
specialized? I've never ridden the Cob Gobbler.
So that one,
the Cobble Gobbler,
that's like the one that
the Z one,
yeah.
Okay.
Insert in it.
Yeah, I had one of those on my old S-Works Crux. Liked it. I think the 3T is, I don't know what the suspension quoted travel is for both. The one thing I didn't like about that one is unless you torque that thing, I believe it's to like 11 Newton meters or 20. I don't remember. It was a lot compared for a seat post. You couldn't run carbon rails on it because you had to go so high on the torque value. So if you're going to run that seat post, get a torque wrench or take it to a shop and have them torque it down to whatever it says on there required, because it will slip if you don't have it. And then pack the inner part with carbon grease.
Right. Yeah, they'll slip.
Oh yeah, all day long. So carbon grease and the right Newton meters, and they're fine. Like I said, that's why I went to the 3T version, because it was like the can't really fail at that point version.
Yeah, those wedge sockets are terrible for that. Like I run my saddle so far forward on all my bikes. It's just the position I like, and like 30K in, I'll just stop paying attention to stuff and just smoke potholes in my saddle.
Yep.
Worst.
You need a bike with a steep head or a steep seat tube.
There it is.
It's like I run my saddle at a decent spot for once.
Yeah. So I'm going to go in the comments real quick. Let me know if we have missed anything. I mean, we've talked tires and wheels and frame and fork, gearing, drivetrain choices, handlebars, brakes.
I think Eugene in the comments, I'm assuming that's the name of the 3T bars, Eric, we were talking about. Super I don't know how to say that.
Super Gaia.
Super Gaia. There it is.
Like
there it is.
Carbon Gaia.
Yeah.
Okay, saddles. Very important. We didn't talk about.
True.
So I'm gonna say I've been digging.
Look at Jim. Look at Jim right now. Look at that's a hell of a.
Yeah, he's ready to ride.
He's ready to go.
I'd say have you guys tried the Ergun Saddles? I've been really stoked on those. They've got kind of like a flatter profile.
I haven't. I'd love to try. They look cool.
Yeah, that's been kind of my new fave. I've been testing out a mountain bike one on a gravel bike. I don't know how specific they are to riding styles, but those are pretty comfortable if you like a saddle that's kind of wider in the back and like level profile.
And I can't do a level saddle. Like
no?
I thought I was okay for any type of saddle until I rode one that I didn't like, and I was like, oh, this is what people need.
Yeah.
Like now, like the newest saddle that I've fallen in love with is the Physique Allianti. Like
I can't ride those things.
unfortunately, and I didn't realize it when I bought my Crux frame set. It came with it. I didn't realize it was the most expensive one. Like, I bought the frame set, $500. I was like, oh, I have to have that. I usually ride a ramen, like a specialized ramen.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just swap it out, but I'll give it a chance, I guess. So of course I ride it, fall in love with it, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this on all my bikes.
Yeah.
Super expensive. Oh, damn it.
That's so funny. I'm a specialized power guy, 100% all day. I literally have like 6 of them, just in case.
Yeah.
I don't have 6 bikes. I have 6 power saddles. It's fine. I have all the versions. I have an S-Works. I have the tie carbon shell. I have just the tie rail. I have the chromoly. I also have like a super limited like color shift one because I saw it and I was like, might as well. It matches on my bikes anyway. But
I love the power saddles too. So if you're ever looking for a saddle that feels similar, ish, at least in the rear, Ergun would be kind of a lateral move.
Yeah,
I saw that they were taking the power saddle and actually adding some length. Like
so I don't know about all the length. If you're gonna get a power saddle, go to a specialized dealer. I used to work at one, and get your saddle width measured because they make 3 different widths. They do a 143, a 155, and a 168. If you have birthing hips, this is what I like to say. So I ride a 155, and it's the most comfortable thing. I have it. Technically, it's a TT or like aggressive road saddle. I've fitted multiple guys on mountain bikes, cyclocross, gravel, road. I'm fit certified, but like that's, I think, my most diverse saddle I've ever fitted, and I personally love it. If you go with the S-Works version, you're going to get less padding, so it's not as comfortable as far as for like a gravel setup. But I think for me, like that's my favorite saddle hands down, and that's why I have X amount of them. Yeah.
Cool. So Emerson Cortez here asked, how about suspension forks on gravel? I thought it was interesting to note that all 3 of us went with a rigid fork. So what's the consensus? Like suspension forks have no place on gravel bikes, or just not fans?
No,
or
I just know that I would use my gravel bike for more than just going and riding dirt roads. Or like I'm guilty of this. Like taking a gravel bike and like saying you can ride single track with it. While it is fun, like there's a novelty to that, and that'll go away.
It's charming.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think I would. There's not every day that I'd be like, I'm gonna go ride, the single track around here on my gravel bike. Like that's what that thing's for.
Right. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
I think for me, and I mentioned this in my review of the Redshift stem, it's like that thing's $100 and whatever $150, $180, whatever. You get within 10 mil of travel of like a Lauf fork. And even though the Redshift stem is heavy, your overall weight is less. And in 10 minutes, I can switch that out to a rigid stem, and that's it. So like if you want the responsiveness of like either you're using it for road or you just want like the more playful front end, you can swap your stem out, save 100 grams, whatever it is, and have that. Where like swapping your Lauf fork out, like I wouldn't want that on a bike that is my everything bike. I think that's the thing, is where it makes total sense. Do you get a little more travel of it? Totally. Is the fork way heavier than a rigid fork? Yes. Did they design it really well as far as like, no, basically like I don't like the Fox fork because 1, it's atrociously heavy. 2, you still have to service it. And that's like the worst part of having any suspension is service. So like the Lauf version of it makes the most sense. But if you can get 2/3 ish out of that in a stem, I would 100% pick that any day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of also, one of the things I like about a gravel bike, I think Eric touched on this, is like they're pretty versatile. You can ride it on road, you can ride it on trails, a little bit under bikey. And I feel like once you put a suspension fork on it, you've kind of committed it to one end of the spectrum and taken away like its utility in the other ends of the spectrum. So for me, gravel bike's an all-rounder, and by putting a fork on there adds weight, adds complexity. Yeah, so not my favorite thing, but more power to you if you guys like it. So any other questions in the YouTube chat, guys? What did we miss out? We talked about saddles. Someone brought that up. Good point. Suspension forks. Let's talk about bags a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know how much bike touring you guys do, but any preference for would you go, rack and pannier, old school, frameless bike packing, or would you go, basket packing, hipster style, saddlebags?
I'm a big fan of the Kai Venture bags. I've been working with them on developing some cool stuff and working with them. They're all handmade in California. They make really cool stuff, and their pricing is really reasonable. I think to me that opens up the biggest gamut of you don't need a specialty bike. So I'm a big believer in bike packing on frame bags, because you can have, if you have a road bike or you have whatever, they'll all essentially work. I think it's really cool with these brands that are doing it from scratch and opening up this avenue of, hey, maybe I can't afford a new bike this year, but I can make it way more useful and do something cool and new with it. I think that's what I really like about bike packing. It's you can spend, even if you go full custom, whatever, a couple $100 on a full bag system that's unique to your bike that looks really rad. And you can reuse some old camping stuff that's probably in your closet or your garage that you haven't used in 10 years. I think that adds such a cool element to where it's almost like getting a new bike, using what you got.
It's teaching your bike new tricks.
There it is. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Your old bike new tricks. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you, Eric?
I mean, I've always been a fan of the strap to the bike bags, and because I am so bad for running such low stems, low stack height, that I know you guys like to run handlebar bags, and I know a lot of people do. It's not really an option as much for me, so I don't. But a good frame bag and a top tube feed bag with say a porcelain rocket Mr. Fusion would be my setup.
Yeah.
And then if I felt I needed any more than that, which I wouldn't, because I'm a very underprepared person anyway, so it's not like I'm bring everything with me. If I was going alone, okay, maybe, but I tend to do all this stuff with friends. They bring everything I'm going to forget anyway, so
right,
it's all good.
Yeah, for me, I've kind of had mixed feels on bike packing bags. I mean, I understand their utility, and you can put it on any bike. All that stuff is good, but I ride smaller frames. And if I put a butt bag on there, it's it's hitting the rear tire. And also just if you do the calculations of price per volume, bike packing bags are very expensive.
Yes.
Cost per liter. So for me, I like the kind of traditional Caradice saddlebag, run front and back, because you get the volume, you can run it rackless if you've got the clearance, or you can use some kind of bag support. There's a bunch of options out there, and they're also vastly more expandable, because you can strap things to the top. A lot of them have kind of flaps that open up, and you can stuff more crap in there. I'm not the most minimalist bike tourer or bike packer. I mean, as evidenced by carrying fishing stuff and painting stuff.
Right.
So bike packing bags are a little bit too minimal for me in terms of their limitations. And probably the biggest thing I don't like about bike packing bags is when they're empty, they just look like flaccid sausages on your bike.
Totally.
It's the most ugly thing. It's
the worst. No, that's really why I like the bags I get from I have from Kai Venture, because he double walls them. So your handlebar bag, the worst thing I've seen is you get the handlebar bag that's empty, and it just looks like a wet noodle. It
looks worse than a wet noodle.
Yeah, it's just but he does all his handlebar bags with a double wall side, so it keeps it very rigid, so it looks good, not packed. And that's what you want. It packed or unpacked, that's really where it's if it's going to be a permanent fixture because I like having the bag on there. And again, it's like my little one that I have, it's like minimal weight. It's like I just leave it. I might have stuff in there, I might not, but it doesn't like compress. And also I run like my daytime little flasher on it because it's got the loops in the front. So I like it for that, just literally for that, because it's like a perfect place for that kind of light. So I'll leave it on there all the time, but like it doesn't look like saggy, or it doesn't like put the light like basically angled down to the tire because there's nothing in there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's always been a little bit of a surprise that kind of the minimalist bike packing bags were like the mainstream really latched onto them, because they're kind of developed for endurance races. You know, but they've been adapted to like every kind of touring, which you know you can totally do, but I don't know. It's I
think it's because it looks so much faster and cooler
than panniers and rack.
It's gonna take. I think it's gonna take a little while until like a utilitarian looking machine overtakes the look of a fast bike again. I very much remember the day that I was like, oh, this is for me. And there was a post, like, what was the endurance, like, brevet in Spain that John did, like, on the Radavist. He did a feature of, like, 3 bikes. One was, like, a Venge. One was, like, a Focus. Something. They were all, like, crazy fast road bikes with, like, bags strapped to them. And, like, these guys who were just trying to, like, race across Spain, like, so fast on like roads and stuff, and I was like, I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's like what was it was on Netflix. It was about the transcontinental race from if Oregon to New York or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like Ride the Divide. It was It's the Mike Dion films.
Yeah. That was crazy, and like that was. I mean, the dude that like obviously rest in peace. Like, you know, that guy's a legend, but like that was insane. Like that was where I was like, this is cool. Like that's awesome. Like he was on his pivot or whatever with full bags, and the dude's riding like 350 miles a day. Like if I could ride that in a week, I'd be happy. You know, like that's like, it was ridiculous.
Right. So here's a question. Like, I think, you know, remember last time someone had posted the comment that hybrid bikes are dad bikes.
Yeah.
I said, you know, one reason, you know, hybrid bikes didn't really take off is there wasn't like a race or event around them to act as like basically a promotional vehicle. And I think in some ways, you know, the endurance bike packing races, you know, is what made bike touring cool.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like it's been around, you know, people had been, you know, doing it even in, you know, with like minimal setups, but it wasn't until that there were kind of well publicized events that that really took off and captured everyone's imagination.
Yeah.
Sure,
I would agree with
that.
Yeah.
I'd like Nathaniel's comment's cool. Do you have over here?
Curious about clothing choices for gravel. Obviously, don't want to off-road in denim. You could, but is Lycra race kit necessary? I think, you know, Eric, you know, you made a video that kind of touched on this and all the various clothing choices one could wear. You know, what do you guys typically wear on, let's say, just a casual gravel ride?
I would probably have my elastic jacket, or like my beat up like windbreaker thing, depending on what the weather's like, and like jean shorts.
So so there would be some denim.
Full. That's a full Jay Leno. Yeah, got it. All right. For me, I mean, I come from like that was me. Like back in the day when I started Fix was jeans and like a t-shirt and like maybe clipless shoes eventually. I think now a lot of your mountain bike stuff translates very well. Your shorts or your short liners or whatever you want to call them. So for my casual rides, if I'm just doing like a weekday casual 10 to 20 miles, it's probably going to be in like mountain bike shorts, your mountain bike like liners, which basically is a chamois like boxer brief kind of thing, and a t-shirt. That's new to me. But yeah, if I'm doing a longer ride, and especially if it's gonna be hot and I want to carry stuff, like I'll wear I'll wear a kit, at least a jersey and mountain shorts, or I will go full kitted. I love the bib shorts with the side pockets. I have like a knockoff like Rafa style one. The chamois crap, so I don't wear it. But like it would be great. Like I would want 5 of those instead of just like one $300 one. So like that's where that's where my problem is.
Right. Yeah. Typically, I'd wear bibs and then like some kind of overshort. But for shirts, I really like a long sleeve, like a lightweight, like hiking shirt or a fishing shirt.
Okay. That's a thing. A fishing shirt is a thing.
Yeah, like a fly fishing shirt. And this is why they're awesome. One, they're quick dry. I mean, they're designed. When you get wet, they're going to dry. They've got an action back, especially the fly fishing ones. So
what's an action back?
There's a cut. There's an open seam with ventilation. So there's a ton of movement, more so than like a Kitspo shirt or something. You can make them into short sleeves. They've usually got some kind of thing to pin up there, and primarily because I get really hot when I ride, and I found wearing like a short sleeve shirt versus a long sleeve shirt in direct sun, I don't overheat as quickly when the skin's covered, and it seems counterintuitive, but if you go into desert cultures, they're not running around in like in jockey shorts, right?
Yeah.
They're fully covered.
Yeah.
I took a desert survival class once, and like the teacher was like, the first thing or the last thing you want to do is take off all your clothes, because you will just fry.
Yeah.
And it just it makes sense. I mean, yeah. So that's
maybe that's it. Maybe that's the new hack is like get your action seam fishing shirt for your cycling kit.
Oh, for sure. Like there's a bunch of cycling brands that have come out with kind of gravel casual clothing, but they miss so many details, like stuff like that they could take from the fishing industry. So, so someone wants to pay you to ride a tuxedo.
I will do that.
All right, that's it. We're gonna start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, so a couple of fans of the fishing shirt, sun protection, staying cool is real, lots of pockets. Yeah, that's another thing. Like these casual cycling shirts, I feel like the front pocket has to be big enough to carry a phone, right?
Sure.
Like if it doesn't do a phone, if it's like some kind of vestigial, like symbolic gesture towards a functional pocket, then forget about it.
Hawaiian shirt, like that.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the rayon Target shirts in floral and banana pattern.
Maybe I need to try those out. Yeah, that's
And the thing is, it's like you can't, it's people don't take you too seriously. Like I feel like a motorist sees someone riding, a bike in a Hawaiian shirt, they're not gonna. It's hard to get aggro about that, I think.
Well, to be like, this guy has a good time.
Yeah. Or be like, or they feel sorry for you. They're like, oh, this guy, like,
Right. But either way, you would be hard to miss in like a big, like, pink neon Hawaiian shirt. So what did we? So in the YouTube comments, what did we miss? I think we talked about most everything. I'm assuming you guys would all set up your tires tubeless.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Also, quick tip for anybody who's running tubeless to save a ton of weight. Granted, it is a lot of money, but Turbolitos, those I did a video for like my ultimate saddlebag for all bikes. So it has a Turbolito for a 650 by 2.2 and a 700 up to a 40 in one saddlebag with like all my tools. And I keep a multi-tool like on the bottle cage area. It's my saddlebag with everything in it. It's like right at 400 something grams. It's like right at a pound. Those things are the best as far as volume to weight ratio. They are expensive. They're like $50 to $70 or whatever for a tube, which is insane. Or no, sorry, $35 to $50 for a tube. But
they're latex, right? Or they're not beautiful.
They're latex. They're orange. The big thing is, one, besides the weight savings,
they take no space.
They did, yeah. They're literally like a quarter of like what my 650 tube was. It's like a quarter of the space, so I can literally run one saddlebag because I'm notorious for this. Is like I had a custom Kai Venture one made. I'm like, it looks super cool. It looks good on all my bikes. Like I want to run it, but then like having to swap tubes out or CO2s or whatever. It's like I can run one bag that has everything in it, and like the turbo leader tubes are like I don't know 50 grams ish. Depends on the size. It's worth doing.
I got some recently, and they're bonkers. They're definitely small.
Yeah.
And,
I just wish. Hopefully they'll do this for the road tubes. It's an integrated valve. The 650 ones are now like half valve with like a core. Yeah. With like a core, so you could run it either way. The road ones, I don't like it because like that. I'm just worried that the valve's going to eventually like kink or something's going to happen to it. Yeah. So I would love for them to I'm assuming they're going to eventually like convert those over because I'm assuming more mountain bikers are on them because it saves the most weight. But yeah, and anyone who's stayed long enough for this part of the, cheers to whoever's watching this. So
you guys are troopers.
Yeah,
we'll wrap it up in a bit. So dyno and light. Have you guys futzed around with dynamos and light setups?
I built a dynamo wheel and light setup for a guy, a friend, Rion, who went to go ride across Canada, and it worked really well until his bike packing setup went in his front wheel on a descent.
Woo.
So actually the wheel came out no problem. So I was very happy with that. Though the fork was destroyed and Rion broke his neck. And
oh, geez.
Oh, wow. Fuck.
Was, in Ontario for a couple months.
Yeah, but you guys got free healthcare out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, he's fine.
He had bought like the day of, or like the day before. He's like, geez, I've been riding at night a lot, and I should maybe be careful. And then bag went into front wheel at night on a descent, so he didn't even know. He was just on the ground. Yeah. And like this like old lady was like driving down the road, and she's like, I wonder what that is. I'm like, I thought it was a deer. And she's like, well, that deer hasn't moved, because she thought it was the reflective of the jacket. And she got over. She was so beat up. And she's like, oh, this man has been murdered by this bicycle. I should call for an ambulance. And
oh man.
I just remember waking up and seeing Rion in a hospital bed.
Wow, that's crazy. I recently picked up a Sun Dynamo hub for the Crust, and
just the hub or like a built wheel.
It was a built wheel.
Okay.
And it's a Sun hub laced to what's it called? The rim says Outback on them. I'm blanking. Astral is the rim maker. They're formerly Rolf Prima, or they're a branch of Rolf Prima. And the light is Edelux that I bought off of Duncan over Transit Cycles in Arizona. And it worked pretty good. I mean, honestly, I don't do a ton of night riding. Right. Clearly not commuting, working from home, making YouTube videos. So it's kind of a novel thing to have. I know some people like to charge electronics off of a Dynamo hub, but in my experience, the efficiency is not there. It's not going to fully charge up a battery on your phone. I mean, it's kind of this slow trickle. So, I think if you commute a lot, then it makes sense. But I don't know. I don't think it's absolutely necessary for bike touring and bike packing if you do short trips. You'd be better served by just getting a power bank. So.
I think if you were gonna do a multi, you have to be going on almost a week, rural, middle of nowhere kind of deal. It's where you could run most external lights on a battery pack that obviously outputs enough, for a long time. So unless you're biking significantly into the night, you could do a decent battery bank and run at least a few days, depending again how much you're riding in full darkness, essentially. But I think the Sun, as far as weight and efficiency wise, is the best. But I think Hunt is the only one of the few companies that's building it into a stock wheel set, which I think is cool. I think it's an awesome thing. If it was going to be for me, I would totally just buy like a front wheel just for that. And then I would just swap it in and swap the tubes or the tire and tubeless sealant and everything else over when using it. But I don't think I would run it like regularly.
Yeah. You know, one thing I just discovered that you could do, because I've got the polyvalent that I bought and it's quick release, and the Sun Hub, the Sun wheel I have is a 12 millimeter through axle. You can get a little adapter thing.
Yeah.
So so I could run it on the quick release bike.
Yeah, I have a 15. Or on my old wheel set, I had a 650s. There were 15 mil through axle front, and I just ran like a spacer so I could space it down to 12 because that's what my bike used. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think let's wrap up on this last question. This one always raises lots of comments. Flat pedals are clipped.
Clipped.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, clip in. If you're into cycling, you like. I get it for like the crazy downhill, but like if you're gonna eventually get a bike fit because you're into this, you like it enough. We've collectively inspired you enough to like really commit to like this really expensive hobby. Like if that happens, you want to do it. Also, like your bike fit's very crucial on like being clipped versus flat.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be the dissenting voice here and say flats. Like I've ridden clipless like for years. I actually just went to flats the last couple years. Part of it is just convenience, especially. I mean, the type of riding I do, where we're on tour, it's like I don't want to carry an extra pair of shoes just to go hiking or something. So I'd rather just carry one piece of footwear. But I also decided to ride flats during Dirty Kansas. I was training in clipless, and I found that after about hour 6 or 7, like my feet were swelling, and I was just getting hot spots. I tried different shoes, and the big issue was that a lot of the cycling shoes are just like narrow. Like I don't know who designs Giro's shoes, but they're like for these little like dainty feet. You
need the HVs. Those are H.
That's
yeah,
what I got.
High volume.
I got the Terraduro HVs, and still,
really?
After
too narrow.
After hour 6, man, things swell up.
Got it.
So about like a month before, I switched to flats, and had no issues. I mean, so I think there's time and place for each. I'm not like completely sold that one is, it depends on your preference, but I think there is a reasonable case for flat pedals for a lot of people. But the fit issue is a thing. I've been to bike shops where I've walked in with flat pedals, and they're like, we can't fit you, which is a bummer because I mean,
it's doable. It's just there's certain metrics that you can't fine tune because like your foot can move. So that's really where like your fore and aft position, like basically how far forward or back your position is on your saddle, is defined on your knee drop over your pedal spindle. And if that position moves because you're on a flat, it's hard to do that.
I don't know. Like,
you can ballpark it.
Yeah. I mean, when I ride, like there's a place on the ball of my foot that I can feel when it's over the spindle. So I'm not like, putting my heel on the front of the pedal one stroke, and I try to nail like some kind of biometric spot. So I think it can be done kind of consistently. So I guess that's it. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and don't forget, if you guys want to help us come up with a logo other than this thing.
It's slightly out of focus, Russ. It's slightly out of focus.
It's called Bokeh.
I know what it is. I'm just saying, like, you can't read it.
Well, it says Alternative Cycling Network. We want to help. We want you guys to help us out with a logo, crowdsource it, make it all sorts of goofy fun. And if you got submissions, email alternativecyclingnetwork@gmail.com. I know, super creative. Once again, I want to thank our co-host here. We've got Mike from LockedIn.
There it is. All right, you nailed it. All right.
And Eric from Spindatt. And if you guys don't follow and subscribe to them already, you should. We're one of the reasons we're doing this is because our channels have a lot of overlap between gear and interest in our general approach to cycling. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else final words?
That's it. I think subscribe to all of us if you haven't already. Russ, the links are in the description. If they aren't already, they will be. Anybody who's watching
they're in
this.
the description.
But no, I think that I love this platform. I think it's been great for all of us. I really look forward to honestly seeing all the cool designs that everybody's come up with. I've already gotten a few, and I look forward to really seeing some cool new ones.
Yeah. Eric?
If we could just comment at how good Russ's set looks right now.
Oh yeah,
it looks so
like
pro.
like that.
Except
that's
for the
like,
audio.
Like that's the real like. I get it. Like he's done this before. Like we understand. Like Eric's in his shed. I'm in my studio apartment. This is my bed. Like this is what I sleep on right here. Like, this is where we're
back here.
Like Eric's even got a whole painted logo. Like like it's a production value ramped way up over here. Yeah. So
yeah, I didn't have a painted logo, but I was like, I can't let Eric upstage me. I gotta put something in the back there.
Well, like it's your channel.
That's right.
Gotta do the
we're just living on it, Eric. That's it.
So Eric, have you come up with the V-Cline alternative logo?
I will do like a roll down garage style.
There you go.
Style that just comes down in front of it. Every time I leave frame and have glasses on.
There you go. Yeah, we can't afford the actual Dustin Klein, but we've got V-Cline, virtual Klein coming next episode.
Virtual Klein, I like that. That's so good. That's so good.
Right. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed goofing off with us, talking bikes and everything. Look forward to your logo submissions. We might do, potentially how many logos we get, we might do a logo unveiling next episode, which would be exciting.
If they're good, yeah.
And until then, we'll see you